welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. My name is Christina Previtt. I am one of two lead faculty for clinical management of the fitness, athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum. Let me just make sure, I think we are on live with both. So welcome. If you're seeing me on Facebook, Christina Previtt here. I'm one of the two lead faculty for clinical management of the fitness, athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum. Sorry for coming on here a little bit late. There is some just some confusion with the time zones, et cetera, but we are here now. Hello, and today we're going to talk a little bit about accepting pelvic floor issues. If you were at the sampler this weekend, it was an incredibly jam-packed weekend. So exciting to see all the faculty come together. And we actually had a major announcement. So if you were at Sampler, you would have heard that we are launching in 2022 a clinical management of the fitness, athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum live course. We are so excited. We have had individuals ask us around doing a live course for several years. We finally got all of our ducks in a row in order to be able to launch this and create a product that we hope that you will be proud of. So this 2-week course is going to be focused on the fitness athlete, but we are going to be teaching pelvic health skills. So we will have an internal vaginal and rectal assessment, and then we're going to try and take some of that internal exam and that early core rehab and transition it into getting women back to heavy deadlifts and advanced gymnastic skills. So the idea is that this 2-week course or 2-day course, is going to take you on a journey that is going We are launching that in 2022. Okay. Today, we are going to talk about accepting leaking as just something that happens. We are starting a little bit on Instagram. My connection's not very good. Hopefully it's going to reconnect. Some of the statistics around pelvic floor issues are showing competitive women who are experiencing some amount of leaking. And that's a really high number. Individuals who are taking part in barbell sports is starting to come out. We're seeing a fairly consistent message that 50% that create the most vulnerability to leaking. However, what are we doing with that information? Pretty much nothing. And is on our radar, at least, that pelvic floor issues can occur, but I haven't actually seen anything change that much in terms of how are we setting up female athletes and how are we setting them up in order to make sure that they are at a decreased risk of these pelvic floor dysfunctions. And I've talked about the fact that I think that females are not taught how to brace correctly, and we can go over that a little bit in today's lecture. But what I wanted to really speak to is what is going on in our medical system. If we had 50% of our male athletes, I'm going to say male, it could be any male, soccer players, let's say 50% of soccer players, let's not even put gender into this. If we said 50% of soccer players are going to hurt their knee, and they're going to experience knee pain, or they're going to have an injury where they blow out their ACL, would we just say, it's just something that happens? It's part of being a soccer player. No, we would never do that. So why do we just say, oh, well, this is just something that happens to women? And these statistics, a lot of these studies are coming out in nulliparous female athletes. And so if we can't even use the excuse, well, they have had a baby, or your hormones are changing with pregnancy, that one should never, ever be a justification for allowing women to be leaking without advocating for help in some way. But two, it's just simply not true. It is simply, this is just something that happens. And so as a healthcare system, as a fitness profession, it really makes me stop and pause and say, what the heck is going on? Why are we just accepting that this is true? And I have my own thoughts, but I want to use today's episode reflecting about why this is happening. Why are we just accepting that female athletes are going to be leaking with sport and sometimes advocating for them to quit? Try something like try a different sport that is going to reduce the incidence, or saying that this is just something that is going to happen to them. There's something that we can do from a coaching perspective. There is something that I can do from a pelvic health perspective. And just like we would advocate for an athlete who's pushing the boundaries, who is starting to experience shoulder pain from kipping pull-ups, if they're experiencing leaking with double unders, we would absolutely want the referral to a PT to happen, 100%. But what can we do on the front end? And there's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight today. Number one is we need to be teaching pelvic health 101 in entry-level programs. I'm not saying that you need to be specialized in internal pelvic floor as a PT. I don't say that you have to be a pregnancy and postpartum specialist when it comes to being a personal trainer. But what we're seeing is that so many women who have never had kids are experiencing this too. So this is more, if you ever have a female client, which I'm sure 99.9% of personal trainers or individuals in the fitness space, or a PT who's working in orthopedics does, then this is something that you need to be aware of. And saying that I don't do pelvic floor or I don't know anything about pelvic health is no longer an excuse, because the statistics are just so high. It is way too much, and we need to start figuring out something else. So that's number one. Number two is we need to make sure that we are coaching female athletes in a slightly different way. An example is bracing, and we're going to finish with that at the end. So if we are thinking that women are at risk for pelvic floor dysfunctions and men are not, in general, there are some men who have pelvic health issues, don't get me wrong, but in general in athletics, then there must be something related to the female anatomy that creates some of this discomfort or some of these issues from coming up. So how do we coach a female athlete different from a male athlete so that these issues don't come up in the first place? Because I would rather preventatively teach my athlete how to work through pressure management in her first 1 or 2 years of training, rather than deal with a prolapse that has happened from progressive straining with increasingly heavy weights over 6 to 7 years. This is something that could have been prevented with entry-level education and programming. And so it is so, so important that I never hear from a fitness person, I don't do pelvic floor. That I never hear from a physical therapist that I don't do pelvic floor, because it's just not true. You absolutely do. If you're a PT and you're seeing somebody with hip pain, low back pain, we know that pelvic floor tenderness links to lumbopelvic pain like 90% of the time. And so you are dealing with pelvic floor issues. And that may be just opening up the conversation and then referring, but you at least have to open up the conversation with the strength and conditioning coaches. If you are not talking about or have at least an awareness of pelvic floor, you have athletes on your gym floor that are leaking or are worried that they are going to be leaking, and they're just not telling you because you have not created a safe space and opened up a conversation for them to say, just so you know, this is something that happens. I need you to tell me if you are feeling any of these things so that we can change the way that you are bracing, change the way that you are lifting, change something in your program to minimize these symptoms. And if we can't do that, we're going to make a referral to PT because we know that PT can help. And so this comes into a big systemic issue in our healthcare system where it hasn't really been until the last 5 or 10 years the pelvic floor has been in main social media. And I really thank social media for that. But this is not just a pregnancy and postpartum issue. This is a lifespan working with women issue. And how much data do we need to have that nulliparous female athletes who are pushing the boundaries of their physical capacity are at a high risk of leaking? How many of these studies, how many different sports do we have to show are having this issue before we start putting it into basic education in fitness? Putting at least a conscious awareness that's more than an hour lecture into our PT programs so that all of our fitness and health professionals can create bridges to have open conversations with our athletes so that we do not have to have 80% of our trampolinists who are experiencing leaking, so that 50% of our women don't have to feel that leaking is normal. And if you ain't peeing, you ain't PRing. Those sentences should never be said because we know that there is something that we can do about it. And so I'm going to keep screaming this from the rooftops until I go into a room and I say, how many people have at least an elementary knowledge of pelvic floor? And every single person, male or female, put their hands up, then I will be successful. And then I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it again because it's so important, everyone, that we understand that you do not need to be an internal therapist. You do not need to be a pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach to be able to talk about this. It is important that we at least talk about it. And as long as we can say to our female athletes, do you know that there are other healthcare providers? It doesn't have to be me that you can talk to get help with this. Here, I have a person. That is all you need to do. Every CrossFit coach, CrossFit level 1 should have pelvic floor in it because so many women are like, oh, there's double unders in the workout. I'm going to run to the bathroom. Doesn't matter if you've had a kid, not had a kid, or going through menopause or going through postpartum. It does not matter. They all go to the bathroom because they're afraid that they're going to pee. And so talking to that's the perfect opportunity to say, hey, ladies, if you are feeling like you're going to leak or you're having this strong sensation that you're going to pee during workouts, come out to me after class. I have something that you can talk to about this because there's something that you can do about it. Done. Was not going deep into pelvic floor, was not talking about doing an internal exam, was just saying, I am aware that this is an issue. I got you. I understand that this is something that happens. Let me give you somebody that you can talk to about it who knows more about this than me. All right, that is my soapbox for today. I'm going to yell it loud and proud until we start changing these conversations. I know there's so many of our students who have taken clinical management of the fitness, athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum who are down to have these conversations and would love to help your athletes. So you should reach out to them if you do not feel comfortable in this space. Big announcement. We have our live clinical management of the fitness, athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum launching in 2022. We are so excited to not only have this as an online course, but be able to bridge this into a live course that shows we're going to do the internal. We're going to see if X, Y, and Z is happening. How can we minimize symptoms and get them back to doing things like gymnastics and metcons without leaking and double unders and heavy lifting by teaching the appropriate steps along the way. If you guys are not interested in the live course and you want to jump into our next online cohort, we start May 8th. We are almost halfway full for that cohort. So if you are interested in learning about all things pelvic floor, which after today's lecture, or I shouldn't say lecture, after today's podcast, I hope you do. Yes, I'm so excited for this course too. We are starting on May 8th and we would love to have you so that you can get an introductory knowledge to the pelvic floor so that you can talk to all of your female athletes about it. All right, have an awesome week. I can't wait to talk to you all about this live course and hopefully we will connect again soon. Bye everyone, sorry about being late.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.